The pistol shot echoed across the valley as Willow Greene clutched her bleeding shoulder and stumbled through the dense pine forest of the Black Hills. The year was 1878, and the Dakota Territory was as unforgiving as the men pursuing her. She'd never intended to become an outlaw, but fate had dealt her a cruel hand, and now she was running for her life toward the mining town of Lead. Garrett Dawson watched from his position on the ridge as the young woman zigzagged through the trees below. He'd been tracking the Blackwell Gang for 3 days, and this girl seemed to be running from them too. His hand instinctively moved to the badge pinned to his vest, Deputy Marshal of the Dakota Territory, a position he'd held for only 6 months. At 28, he was younger than most lawmen, but what he lacked in age, he made up for in determination. Willow collapsed near a stream, her breathing ragged. The wound wasn't fatal, but she'd lose too much blood if she didn't tend to it soon. She tore a strip from her petticoat and awkwardly tried to bind her shoulder, cursing under her breath. 22 years of life hadn't prepared her for this. "You need help with that," a deep voice said from behind her. She spun around, reaching for the small derringer hidden in her boot, but dizziness overtook her and she fell back against a rock. "I'm not here to hurt you," the stranger said, approaching slowly with his hands visible. "Name's Garrett Dawson, Deputy Marshal." Willow's eyes widened with fear. "Law, I can't. I'm after the Blackwell Gang, not you," he interrupted, kneeling beside her. "Though I'd be interested to know why they're chasing a young lady through these woods." "They think I have something that belongs to them," she whispered, wincing as he examined her wound. "And do you?" His eyes, the color of faded denim, held no judgment, only curiosity. She looked away. "It was mine first." Garrett nodded, not pressing further. "This needs proper cleaning. Lead is just over that ridge. I've got a room at the Grand Central Hotel. I can take you there, get you patched up." "Why would you help me? You don't know me." "I know you're in trouble, and that's enough." He helped her to her feet. "Can you ride?" She nodded, though uncertainty showed on her face. "My horse is just up the hill. We'll ride double." As they traveled toward Lead, Willow leaned against Garrett's broad back, fighting to stay conscious. She hadn't slept in 2 days, and the blood loss was taking its toll. The warmth of his body and the steady rhythm of the horse lulled her into a state between wakefulness and sleep. "Stay with me now," he said over his shoulder. "We're almost there." Lead came into view, a bustling mining town built on the slopes of the hills. The discovery of gold had transformed what was once wilderness into a thriving community with wooden buildings lining muddy streets. Men moved in and out of saloons while freight wagons delivered supplies to the homestake mine that dominated the landscape. Garrett guided his horse to the back of the Grand Central Hotel, helping Willow dismount before anyone noticed them. The last thing she needed was attention. "Wait here," he instructed, leaving her in a small storage room while he secured his horse and retrieved his medical supplies. When he returned, Willow was slumped against the wall, her face pale. "I need to know your name," he said, as he laid out bandages and a bottle of whiskey. "Willow," she said softly. "Willow Greene." "Well, Miss Greene, this is going to sting." He poured whiskey over her wound and she bit down on her lip to keep from crying out. "You're tough, I'll give you that." "Necessity," she responded through gritted teeth. As he cleaned and dressed her shoulder, Garrett studied her. Despite the dirt and blood, she was beautiful, with copper hair and green eyes that reminded him of the forest after rain. But there was something haunted in those eyes, a wariness that spoke of hard lessons learned too young. "How'd you get mixed up with Blackwell?" he asked, wrapping a clean bandage around her shoulder. Willow hesitated. "My father owed them money. When he died last month, they came collecting, said I inherited his debts." "And did you take something of theirs?" Her eyes flashed. "They took everything from me, our farm, our horses. All I have left is my mother's locket. They claimed it as payment, but I couldn't. I couldn't let them have it." Garrett's jaw tightened. "The Blackwells have been terrorizing this territory for years. Your father isn't the first man they've ruined." "They killed him," Willow said quietly. "Made it look like a riding accident, but I know the truth. I heard them planning it the night before. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. And now they want me dead too because I know too much." Garrett finished bandaging her wound and helped her to her feet. "You'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out what to do next. I can't ask you to get involved. You didn't ask, and I'm already involved." He led her up the back stairs to his room, checking the hallway before ushering her inside. "You can take the bed. I'll sleep in the chair." Willow stood awkwardly in the middle of the simple room. "Why are you really helping me, Marshal Dawson?" "Garrett," he corrected. "And I told you it's my job to protect innocent people." "You don't know that I'm innocent." His lips curved slightly. "Let's just say I'm a good judge of character. Get some rest, Miss Greene. You're safe here." But as Willow lay in the unfamiliar bed that night, staring at the ceiling, she knew safety was an illusion. The Blackwell Gang had connections throughout the territory. It was only a matter of time before they tracked her to lead. Morning came with the sounds of the mining town stirring to life. Willow woke to find fresh clothes laid across the foot of the bed, a simple blue dress and undergarments that were clearly purchased new. Garrett was nowhere to be seen, but a note on the table informed her he'd gone to send some telegrams and would return with breakfast. She changed quickly, grateful to be out of her blood-stained clothing. The dress was slightly large but clean and well-made. She was pinning up her hair when Garrett returned with a tray of food. "You look better," he said, setting the tray on the small table by the window. "How's the shoulder?" "Painful, but I'll manage. Thank you for the dress." He nodded, pouring her a cup of coffee. "I spoke with the sheriff this morning. He's agreed to help us, but there's a complication." Willow tensed. "What kind of complication?" "Blackwell's men arrived in town last night. 4 of them, asking questions at the saloons." Her hand trembled, spilling coffee onto the table. "Then I need to leave immediately." "And go where?" Garrett challenged. "They'll just follow you. Your best chance is to stay put while I gather evidence against them for your father's murder." "That could take weeks." "I don't have weeks." "You don't have many options either." His voice softened. "I've been after the Blackwells for months. This might be our chance to bring them down for good." Willow stood and paced the small room. "You don't understand. Edward Blackwell doesn't just kill people, he destroys them. He makes examples of anyone who crosses him." "I understand more than you think." Garrett's expression darkened. "They killed my brother 2 years ago, hanged him for a crime he didn't commit, with a crooked judge signing the order." Willow stared at him. "Then this is personal for you." "Justice is always personal to someone, Miss Greene, but I won't let vengeance cloud my judgment. I'll do this by the book." She sat back down, weighing her options. "What exactly do you propose?" "You stay hidden while I gather witnesses willing to testify against Blackwell. Once we have enough evidence, we'll contact the federal marshal in Deadwood. And in the meantime, I just sit in this room." Garrett shook his head. "There's a widow who lives at the edge of town, Mrs. Patterson. She takes in laundry and keeps to herself. You'll be safer there than at this hotel." As dusk fell, Garrett escorted Willow to Mrs. Patterson's small cabin. The older woman asked no questions, simply showing Willow to a tiny bedroom off the kitchen. "No one will look for you here," Garrett assured her. "I'll come by tomorrow with news." But days turned into a week, and progress was slow. Witnesses who had been willing to speak against Blackwell suddenly developed amnesia when approached officially. Others mysteriously left town overnight. Willow spent her days helping Mrs. Patterson with the laundry, grateful for the distraction. The widow was kind but reserved, sharing little about herself except that she'd lost both her husband and son to mining accidents. Garrett visited daily, often staying for supper. Willow found herself watching the clock until his arrival, her heart quickening at the sound of his footsteps on the porch. Despite the danger surrounding them, she was drawn to his quiet strength and unwavering principles. One evening, as Mrs. Patterson retired early, Garrett and Willow sat on the porch, watching fireflies dance in the gathering darkness. "I received word today," he said quietly. "Edward Blackwell himself is coming to lead." Willow's blood ran cold. "When?" "2 days, maybe 3. His men haven't found you yet, but they're getting desperate." She touched the locket hidden beneath her dress. "Perhaps I should just give them what they want." "It's not about the locket anymore, Willow. You're a witness to their crimes. They won't stop until you're silenced." The use of her first name sent a shiver through her that had nothing to do with fear. "What will we do?" Garrett took her hand, his calloused fingers warm against her skin. "I have a plan, but it's dangerous. I won't force you into it." "Tell me." "We use you as bait." Her eyebrows shot up. "That's your plan? Hear me out. Blackwell wants you dead, but he's too cautious to do it himself. He'll send his men. If we can control when and where they come for you, we can trap them. And use them to get to Blackwell," she finished, understanding dawning. "But how?" "There's a celebration in town day after tomorrow, the founding anniversary of Lead. Everyone will be there. We spread word that you're back, hiding in plain sight." Willow considered the risk. "Even if it works, what then? Running again?" Garrett hesitated. "There's another option. But it would require a great sacrifice on your part." "What kind of sacrifice?" "Marriage," he said simply. "As my wife, you'd be under the protection of my badge. They'd think twice about touching you." Willow's breath caught. "You're suggesting we marry as a strategy?" "As protection," he corrected, though something in his eyes suggested more. "It would be a true marriage, Willow. I wouldn't offer otherwise. We barely know each other. I know you're brave and stubborn. I know you love deeply and protect fiercely. I know when you smile, really smile, it lights up your whole face." He paused. "And I know I've thought about kissing you every day since I found you by that stream." Willow looked away, her cheeks warming. "This is madness." "Perhaps, but tell me you haven't felt it too, this connection between us." She couldn't deny it. In the short time she'd known Garrett Dawson, he'd awakened feelings she'd thought dead after the tragedy of her father's murder. "But marriage?" "I need time to think," she said finally. He nodded, standing to leave. "Think quickly. Blackwell won't give us much time." The next day passed in a haze of anxiety. Willow weighed her options, finding no perfect solution. By evening her decision was made. When Garrett arrived, she was waiting on the porch. "If we do this," she said without preamble, "if we marry, it needs to be real, not just for protection." His expression softened. "I wouldn't have it any other way." "Then yes. But we do it tomorrow before the celebration, and we stop running after. We face Blackwell together." The wedding took place at dawn in the small church on the hill. Mrs. Patterson served as witness, along with Sheriff Collins, who performed the ceremony. Willow wore her blue dress with wildflowers in her hair, and Garrett looked uncommonly handsome in a clean white shirt and black vest. The vows were simple, but as Garrett slid a simple gold band onto her finger, hastily purchased from the assayer's office the previous day, Willow felt the weight of her decision. This was no longer just about survival. It was about building something new from the ashes of her old life. "You may kiss the bride," Sheriff Collins announced, and Garrett leaned down, capturing her lips in a gentle kiss that held the promise of deeper passion to come. "Mrs. Dawson," he whispered against her mouth, and despite everything, Willow smiled. The town celebration was already underway when they arrived at the main square. Word of their marriage had spread quickly. drawing curious glances and whispered conversations. "Keep your eyes open," Garrett murmured, his hand at the small of her back as they navigated through the crowd. "Blackwell's men will make their move soon." Willow nodded, anxiety churning in her stomach. The locket felt heavy against her skin, the last connection to her mother and the life she once had. They mingled with townspeople, accepting congratulations with forced smiles while scanning for familiar faces. Sheriff Collins had positioned deputies strategically throughout the square, all watching for Blackwell's men. The attack came not from the shadows but in broad daylight. A man Willow recognized as Blackwell's right hand, Fletcher, approached them directly, flanked by two others. "Well, well," he drawled, "if it isn't the thieving farm girl, and wearing a ring now, I see." His eyes flicked to Garrett. "Didn't figure you for the marrying kind, Marshal." "State your business, Fletcher," Garrett replied coolly, his hand resting on his pistol. "Just offering congratulations to the happy couple." Fletcher's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Though I wonder if the bride told you what she stole from us." "My wife has stolen nothing," Garrett stated firmly. "The locket belonged to her mother," Fletcher laughed. "Is that what she told you? That trinket contains something far more valuable than sentiment, Marshal, something Mr. Blackwell wants back." Willow stepped forward. "The only thing in this locket is a lock of my mother's hair and her picture. If Edward Blackwell wants it so badly, he can come claim it himself." As if summoned by her words, the crowd parted, and Edward Blackwell strode into the square. He was older than Willow remembered, his hair more gray than black now, but his eyes still held the cold calculation that had terrified her as a child. "Miss Greene," he said, then corrected himself with a mocking bow. "Forgive me, Mrs. Dawson, now, I hear. How convenient." Garrett moved slightly in front of Willow. "This ends today, Blackwell. I have witnesses ready to testify about Joel Greene's murder, an attempted murder of his daughter." Blackwell seemed unconcerned. "Witnesses can change their minds, Marshal, or meet with unfortunate accidents." His gaze shifted to Willow. "All I want is what's inside that locket. Give it to me and perhaps we can all walk away from this." Willow's hand went to her throat. "There's nothing inside but memories." "Lies," Blackwell hissed. "Your father stole the deed to the North Ridge mine, the richest vein in these hills. Before he died, he told me he'd hidden it where I'd never find it. But I know Joel. He'd have kept it close to his heart or yours." Realization dawned on Willow. Her father had given her the locket the night before his death, making her promise never to open it. She'd assumed it was to preserve the memory of her mother, but what if there was more? The crowd had grown silent, sensing the tension. Sheriff Collins and his deputies had moved closer, hands on their weapons. "Even if what you say is true," Garrett said evenly, "that land was stolen from Joel Greene through fraud and intimidation. We have the banker from Deadwood ready to testify to that effect." Blackwell's face darkened. "This territory runs on power, boy, not justice. Stand aside." "No," Garrett's voice was steel. "You're finished in Dakota Territory, Blackwell. The federal marshal is on his way from Deadwood with a warrant for your arrest." Fletcher drew his gun, pointing it at Willow. "Give us the locket, girl, or die where you stand." What happened next unfolded in heartbeats. Blackwell lunged for Willow. Garrett shoved her aside, drawing his weapon. Fletcher fired. The bullet grazed Garrett's arm as he returned fire, striking Fletcher in the chest. The other men reached for their guns as Sheriff Collins and his deputies closed in, shouting orders. In the chaos, Blackwell grabbed Willow, pressing a knife to her throat. "The locket," he demanded. Now, with trembling fingers, Willow unclasped the chain and held it out. Blackwell snatched it with his free hand, keeping the knife at her throat as he backed toward the edge of the square. "Open it," he commanded, Keeping one eye on Garrett, who stood 20 feet away with his gun trained on Blackwell, she carefully opened the locket. Inside was a small, folded piece of paper. Blackwell's face lit with triumph. "I knew it," he whispered, reaching for the paper. In that moment of distraction, Willow drove her elbow backward into his stomach. He staggered and she twisted away, the knife slicing a shallow cut across her collarbone. Garrett was there in an instant, his pistol against Blackwell's temple. "Drop it," he ordered, and the knife fell to the dirt. As deputies swarmed in to restrain Blackwell, Willow retrieved the locket and the tiny folded paper that had fallen during the struggle. She unfolded it with shaking hands. It was indeed a deed not to a mine, but to her family's original homestead, 160 acres of prime land that Blackwell had claimed was his. The document proved her father had legal title through the Homestead Act of 1862, with signatures and official seals. He was going to use this to expose Blackwell, she realized aloud. That's why they killed him. Garrett, his arm now bandaged by a townsperson, came to her side. "Then we'll finish what your father started." 2 weeks later, Edward Blackwell stood trial in Deadwood. The evidence against him was overwhelming, not just for Joel Greene's murder, but for a dozen other crimes across the territory. The judge sentenced him to hang, along with Fletcher, who had survived his wound only to face the gallows. Willow and Garrett returned to lead as heroes, though neither felt comfortable with the attention. With Blackwell's operations dismantled, the deed to the Greene homestead was officially recognized, giving Willow back her family land. "What will you do with it?" Garrett asked one evening as they sat on the porch of the small house they'd rented in Lead. "Sell it," she decided. "Too many ghosts there. The money will let us start fresh." He took her hand, running his thumb over her wedding ring. "Any regrets about us?" Willow leaned against his shoulder. "Only that we didn't meet under better circumstances." "I'd say the circumstances worked out just fine." He kissed the top of her head. "Though I do wonder sometimes if you married me just for protection." She sat up, meeting his gaze. "I married you because even when I was terrified and alone, you made me feel safe. Because you really saw me when everyone else looked away." Garrett traced the healing scar at her collarbone. "I fell in love with your courage long before I knew your heart. But now that I know both, I find myself more in awe of you each day." Willow's eyes filled with unexpected tears. "I'm ashamed," she said softly. "Of what?" "Of bringing this danger into your life. Of not being the kind of woman a lawman should marry. My family name is tainted now, associated with scandal and violence." Garrett tilted her chin up. "Then let my name cover yours in pride," he said firmly. "You have nothing to be ashamed of, Willow Dawson. Nothing." He kissed her then, deeply and thoroughly, until the doubts melted away and all that remained was the certainty of his love. In the months that followed, they built a life together in Lead. Garrett continued as deputy marshal, gaining a reputation for fairness and integrity. Willow used part of her inheritance to open a small dress shop, discovering a talent for business she hadn't known she possessed. By the following spring, their family had grown with the arrival of Thomas Joel Dawson, a strong, lunged boy with his father's blue eyes and his mother's determined spirit. As Willow rocked him on the front porch of their new home, a comfortable 2-story house on the edge of town, she marveled at how much had changed in a year. "Penny for your thoughts, Mrs. Dawson," Garrett said, joining her with cups of coffee. "I was thinking about names," she replied, smiling up at him. "How they shape us, how they protect us." He nodded, understanding. "Dawson is a good name, one our son can wear with pride." "As do I," she said softly. "I never thanked you properly for giving me your name when I needed shelter." Garrett knelt beside her chair, one hand cradling their sleeping son's head. "You gave me something far greater, Willow. A family, purpose beyond the badge, even with all the danger, especially with all the danger," he smiled. "The greatest things in life often come from our greatest risks." Willow leaned forward to kiss him, their son nestled between them. "Then I'm glad I risked everything on you, Garrett Dawson." As the sun set over the Black Hills, painting the sky in gold and crimson, Willow thought about the locket now stored safely in a drawer upstairs. It had brought her pain and danger, but also led her to love and redemption. Like the West itself, it represented both loss and possibility, a testament to the truth that from the deepest wounds can come the most profound healing. In the years that followed, the Dawsons became fixtures in Lade, respected and loved by the community. They would face other challenges: the harsh Dakota winters, the ever-present dangers of a frontier marshal's life, the addition of a daughter named Sarah 2 years after Thomas was born. But they faced each trial together, their bond strengthened by the knowledge that they had chosen each other not just in a moment of necessity, but with clear eyes and full hearts. And when people asked about their unusual courtship, Willow would simply smile and say, "Sometimes you find love where you least expect it, even while running for your life."